So welcome everyone, and thank you very much for being on this parallel session number 4 of the Smart Cities online matchmaking event. Here you will get to know free real-life use case implementations of mobility solutions. So I'll just start with a quick introduction on the IT urban mobility, just so we have a bit more of context of why are we presenting these mobility solutions, and then we'll go ahead with the presentations. Just before we start, just a quick poll. Um, just a very basic question. I just wanted to ask you who here has heard of EIT urban mobility before, just so I know how deep should I go into the corporate presentation. I will vote yes. I mean, I can start this poll and let me know how familiar are you. Okay, 75%. I guess it's not too bad and growing. Okay, 80%. I guess I can deal with that. All right, so let me then just do a very quick overview of what do we do at Urban Mobility. So, wait. So, EIT Urban Mobility. So we are one of 8 knowledge innovation communities co-funded by the EIT. So we report to the mother EIT, who is a body of the European Union. We have funding until 2033, and then hopefully we'll become financially independent. And what is our end goal? So our end goal is to accelerate urban mobility transition to a sustainable one. And how do we do that? By connecting local, regional, and national ecosystems in order to deliver projects and initiatives to improve urban mobility. The interesting part of VIT, at least in my view, is that we are involved in the full flow of the delivery of the mobility solution. So ever since its inception, from an education point of view, all the way to its delivery to the citizens in a upscaling of startups. So we in some way I also do the investment in startups and upscale them, so our portfolio is valuable to delivering sustainable innovation to cities. And how do we do that exactly? So we do that through our network. So our community is our biggest asset by far. We are the largest European innovation community for urban mobility. In the end, we're enablers, and we work with more than 300 organizations in over 40 cities. And we are aligned, of course, with European Union's policies. So as Georg presented in the beginning of the plenary, 7 to 75% of the European population lives in cities. So these numbers of 51 pilots being implemented in 27 cities is a number that naturally makes me proud. I mean, we implemented innovation, we created change, and we impacted the local ecosystem 51 times. So how exactly can our impact be translated into numbers? I guess this is where I'll have your attention. So we have over 200 solutions showcased in our digital platform. Our academy trained more than 15,000 professionals, plus we just had our first class of graduates of our master's school, which is very interesting too. We delivered over 70 innovation projects since 2020, and we support almost 200 startups. So in a way, we are venture capital, we're an impact venture capital, but with the difference that we follow our startup portfolio funnel follows Horizon Europe rules. So we have independent evaluators. So we have this very valuable portfolio that creates impact and change, and it's ready to be delivered to cities. And this is what you'll get to meet in a couple of minutes. So speaking of mobility, I mean, we are very broad in terms of mobility that we support, that we push, but for 2023, we have 5 challenge areas. So future mobility, which can be described as new mobility services, like autonomous transport, whether road-based or air-based. Active mobility, that by definition is the transportation methods that use physical activity to achieve movement, like walking, cycling, kick scooters, rollerblades, for example. public realm, which is your location of urban space for people, including tactical urbanism and street experimenting, sustainable city logistics, which is kind of self-explanatory, but translates into the movement of goods and urban services, and of course mobility and energy. So where are we? We are all over Europe. That's why also we have such a broad community, a broad network, and we are based in Barcelona, but we have 5 main hubs. Additionally, we have 12 regional innovation schemes in countries with underdeveloped transportation systems. So presentations out of the way. Let me just then introduce the session of today. We have 3 solutions supported by EIT Urban Mobility Pitching with focus on use cases, implementations. So each one will have 7 minutes to present, plus 3 minutes of Q&A after each presentation. If there are further questions, don't worry, we have time after everyone presents, and we can redirect you to breakout rooms, or you can also book meetings through the B2Match platform. So let's start with Pablo presenting Don Cicleto secure parking system. Then we will go ahead with Carlos from Parkunload presenting smart loading zones, and then we'll top the session with Antonio from Libelium, who will be presenting environmental data visualization software. So without further ado, let's crack on. Pablo is an industrial engineer, executive MBA professor and coordinator of the entrepreneurship and innovation area at Universidad Pontificia de Comillas. He's the founder of Don Cicleto, and he'll be presenting the smart bike parking infrastructure for forward-thinking cities. Pablo, we know that according to the European Cycling Federation, the average modal share of cycling in European cities is around 7%. And we also know that, for example, cycling brings great advantages to cities and to citizens, improving air quality, making communities healthier and more cohesive. So please tell us how Don Cicleto is contributing to making cities healthier and greener. Please, Pablo, take it away.
Okay. Hi, good morning, everybody, and thanks, Rafael, for inviting Don Cicleto to present our solution here. So I will share my screen. I have prepared a little presentation, so hopefully we'll have not any problem. Here, supposed to be here. Is it okay? Are you?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So as Rafael mentioned before, I'm Pablo Rosa. I'm the managing director of Don Cicleto. At Don Cicleto, we help cities to deploy smart and secure bike parking infrastructure. We work with different type of parking that adapt the different use cases we find. For example, residential areas, transport hub, office buildings, shopping center. We work with small format like the bike hangar that give us high scalability and is ideal, for example, for residential areas. I will show you some example. For example, this is the city of Coslada in Spain, the city of Leon as well in Spain, and another example that we have done thanks to the EIT Urban Mobility in the city of Milano in Italy. We could work also with large format, for example, by 20 bikes or even more. We work as well with individual lockers. We work with off-street format and even for cargo bikes. All of these kind of parking use the same digital platform from where the user through an app can access to the entire network, and the operator can manage the network. So how is the process with a city? Now, when we work with a city, normally there are 3 different levels. The first level is the infrastructure, the hardware, the physical part that has to be deployed in public space. The second level will be the operation and maintenance of this infrastructure. And finally, the last level will be the digital layer, the management platform, and the user app. Contract, at least here in Spain, and what we see is they always include all these three levels. So it's a end-to-end project where the contractor need to deploy the infrastructure and need to operate and maintain and need to add this digital layer, as I mentioned before. We see two different type of contract in Spain. In one hand, we see public tender, where in summary, the city pays for all these three levels and decide the pricing. And this account for the 90% of the contract in Spain. What we see in this kind of contract is the city define the scope. As I mentioned before, supply, installation, operation, and maintenance, the contract duration and budget, the technical requirement for bike parking infrastructure app and management platform, the level of maintenance and customer service, the technical and economic solvency for those contractors as Don Cicleto that will apply for these tenders, the type of service and pricing. Okay, this is, as I mentioned before, probably the 90% of the contract we see. This is an example of a city in Ponferrada in Spain. Other kind of contract is the concession agreement that in this case, the city give us a public space for us to run the business. So is Don Cicleto and their partner the ones that should invest in this infrastructure that in a period of time we will explode, no, as a business. So there's some differences between public tender and concession agreement that probably you may know. Is they fix the duration and canon. They define the space available, no, and also the different kind of incomes that are allowed, no, not only the parking, the secure park service, but they usually accept other kind of services around the main one, for example, bike maintenance, okay? Again, they will define the technical requirement for bike parking infrastructure, app and management platform, the level of maintenance and customer service, and also the different solvency, no? Technical and economic solvency. As I mentioned before, these are the two main contracts we see, at least here in Spain. Public tender will be the 95% of the cases, no? So in our experience, just to give you some numbers, we have at the end of 2022, we have finished with 60 locations in 15 cities. We could see an occupation between 15 and 75%. And we see that almost the half of the user have electrical bikes, no, with the mean value of those bikes are around 1,000 euros. Okay, our technology from the beginning has been working like in 20,000 transactions, and at the end of this year, thanks to the tender that we have won, we will finish in 4 countries, 100 locations, and 60 cities. So thanks for, again, giving me this opportunity to share with you our experience. And if you have any question, I will be ready to answer. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Pablo. Right in time. Great timing. Does anyone have any question? If you have any questions, you can ask either through the chat or you can just raise your hand and we will share your question. I see someone is writing in the chat. So, Daniela asks, who is the manager of the contract with the municipality? Which unit?
Normally, we work with mobility, with the mobility section of the city. If it's not mobility, will be infrastructure or environment. Most of the time is the mobility counselor.
Okay, that's clear. Is that if you have any other question, Daniela, you can put it in the chat or just raise your hand and I'll give you. Pablo, Daniela is asking, do you consult the smart city data department?
I don't understand this question. Will you, if I don't.
Can I just jump in the question?
Go
Thank you
ahead.
very much for the presentation, Pablo. Just one question, because in the smart city marketplace we are trying to understand which is the most effective governance model to develop the solution. So your main contact is the mobility team, but as you are doing an application and sharing data, do you have contact with the data team of the municipality, of the smart city department of the municipality at some point, or they do this internally?
Yes, we share with them the data, but the IT system for the moment they are not connected, you know.
Okay.
But in a second step will be connected, because, for example, in our case, what we have is a AP layer. So the idea in the future is to be able to connect the different IT database and IT system. In this case, the city will be able to consume directly from our database the data. But it has been planned as a second stage.
As a second step.
First stage, we deploy and we start to offer to final user the secure bike parking. And a second step, we will try to integrate and connect the different technology system.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for the clarification. Thank you, Rafael.
You're welcome, Alice.
Thank you. We have two quick questions and then we'll jump over to the next presentation. So Ruth is asking, is it an end-to-end solution? So it's not possible to buy only the infrastructure solution and connect it to your own platform/app?
For the moment, is a end-to-end solution. But it could be different, as I mentioned before, there's three different levels, the infrastructure, then the operation and maintenance, and the digital layer. What we see is that the contract always look for a full solution, but it could be different. In our case, we can work in different ways. We can offer the infrastructure for one part or the digital layer.
Okay, thank you, Pablo. Just one last question. Are your developments based on cities' sustainable mobility plans?
Are you? Yes, normally our solution are a small or a big part of a mobility plan of the city. Normally a city usually design a plan where they will integrate different kind of solution. What we see is that secure bike parking is a good investment, and it's an important part of this plan, because it's one of the better ways to push micromobility in cities, where the citizens could have their own bike, and you give them a secure place to park. But as I mentioned before, it's just a part of a bigger plan.
Okay, thank you very much, Pablo. And if you have any further questions, you have time at the end of the session, or you can book a one-on-one meeting with Pablo. Thank you, Pablo. So let's move on now to So Carlos is a Master Science in Engineering of Telecommunications and has more than 10 years of experience in smart parking platforms based on mobile apps and Bluetooth. He is the CEO and founder of Parkunload. So Carlos, we know that urban logistics is a very complex topic with a lot of different stakeholders and entities involved. And we also know that these movements are very carbon intensive, accounting for more or less 20% of all freight emissions, even though they represent only around 3% of the freight activity. So these are very carbon intensive movements. So please tell us and share how is Parkunload contributing to decreasing the carbon footprint of these activities. Thank you very much,
Yes.
Carlos.
Sure. Good morning. Thank you for inviting Parkunload to this session. I will share my screen. So I will introduce Parkunload. Parkunload is a solution to regulate, control, and monitor smart loading and delivery zones. And we are very focused on sustainable city logistics. We are a company founded in 2017, so we've been in the market for more than 5 years. And we believe that the regulation of the loading zone should be 100% digital. So, and also with variable and dynamic parking conditions. So it means that not all the vehicles should have the same parking time limit in the loading zones. In addition to this, Parkunload, we use Bluetooth technology. I will explain how. And this is a full feature platform. So we have an app for drivers, an app for officers, parking officers, a web-based back office, and also a big data platform to analyze all the information that we can collect with Parkunload. Regarding the problem statement, as all of you should know, there is a high short-term parking demand in the loading zones, basically because there has been an increasing e-commerce orders in the cities, and also the loading zones. There is a misuse of these parking spaces because some vehicles overstay, or there is a lack of permit. It means that there is a low parking turnover. Many vehicles park in double lines, so it provokes congestion, and these are very polluting vehicles. So there's a big problem in the cities regarding these loading zones, and the parking enforcement nowadays is very inefficient and also expensive. Finally, cities, they don't have data, so there's a lack of parking patterns in the cities for the loading zones. Our principle of operation is very innovative. It's simple, but it's very efficient and very effective. Basically, we install a new road sign on the street with a Bluetooth device, and in this road sign, we state a unique zone code, and we state also the name of the loading zone, the regulation hours, and also that the maximum parking time is controlled with a mobile app. So basically, when the driver gets close to the road sign, the app automatically displays the parking conditions for this vehicle, for the selected vehicle, in this loading zone. So in this case, we have for this smart loading bay 30 minutes, and the driver should start mandatory a parking session when they arrive. So it's the check-in, and when they leave the loading zone, so this is the checkout. In this case, we have this automatic detection of the nearby parking zone, which is very convenient for the end users. And this is a digital parking permit and time limit in these areas. Also, we can regulate the parking time based on the emissions of the vehicle. So we can grant more time to low emissions vehicles, and we can prohibit it parking time for those vehicles that are more pollutants. In this case, also, this is a mobile app for the professionals, for the commercial drivers. So it must be very easy to use and very quick. We only need the cell phone number of the driver, which is validated via an SMS code. And next step, they need to enter the license plate, the vehicle type, the emissions batch, and the driver profile. So with these vehicle features, we can also manage the parking time limit in the loading zones. For the parking session, it's extremely easy to use. just click on the start parking button. So green is that you're okay, orange is that you have 5 minutes left, and red is that you are overstaying in the loading zone. So you need to leave this location, and you can go to another parking zone. In addition to this, there is some parking availability information in real time. So the drivers or the commercial drivers, they may know the free parking spaces in the nearby loading zones, or if they are full, or if they is prohibited to park in these in the loading zones nearby. Also, you can check this information with a map or on a list. In addition to this, there is a mobile app for parking enforcement officers. The parking enforcement officers, they can check in real time the parking conditions of the vehicles parked in the loading zones. They can see the remaining parking time, and they can also use a license plate recognition to enter the license plate of the vehicles. Also, we have a web-based back office for the city administration, and there is also a big data tool that is extremely useful for the city planners, because based on all the data collected in the cities, they can check the average parking time per zone, the amount of parking sessions per zone, and during the time of the day. And so we have a lot of data also for mobility consultants or for city planners to analyze how to optimize the loading zones in the cities. Next step is that we will develop Parkunload for Android Auto and Apple Car, so it will be much easier for the drivers to use the solution. And also we have an impact in the loading zones for the cities. This is very important because we have up to 30% of increase in the parking turnover. There is a reduction of 50% of the illegal parking in the loading zones. So, and basically, for the drivers, they have much more chances to find free empty spaces in the loading zones. In terms of environmental impact, there is less kilometers per delivery, so it's much more efficient. We can also manage the parking time limit based on the environmental badge or the emissions of the vehicle. So we clearly can reduce the pollution, the air pollution and the noise in the cities. Finally, there is a very high return of investment. It's much more efficient than traditional parking regulation tools in cities. And also we can collect big data, which is very important. In terms of the Parkunload solution, we have up to 150,000 app users already in several cities, such as cities near Barcelona, near Madrid, also in Paris, or in Argenteuil in France, the metropole. And we believe that the solution should be 100% digital, and we can manage digital or dynamic regulation of the loading zones. The app is available in 6 languages, and we have an excellent rating in Google Play and App Store. Finally, we can provide outstanding operational KPIs, as I have told this before, and we are compatible with low emission zones or managing environmental KPIs in the cities. As another example, we have performed a project with, thanks to EIT Urban Mobility, is LOAD, Sustainable Smart Loading and Delivery Zones. And we have deployed the solution in Paris with Air de Livraison, so loading zones in the District 10. And also we used Living Lab that we already had in the District 4. Also in the city of Vic, where we already had 40 loading zones, we increased with additional 30 parking spaces for chemists, for the pharmacies. And also in the pedestrian areas of the city, we also implement Parkunload. Finally, in the metropolitan market of Ankara, we deployed the solution. And in the city of Argenteuil, that belongs to the metropole of Grand Paris, we also implement 30 loading zones with for all the day, 24 hours, 7 days per week. Finally, our technology is very focused on loading zones, especially at international level, but we have also deployed our solution for park and ride areas, so we can achieve that the vehicles that park near the train station are really commuters. So this is a very good solution for sustainable urban mobility. Also for the local business, the pickup zones or free short stay zones, pedestrian areas, also chemists, or in fact any kind of free of charge and time limited parking zones where the cities are looking for a higher parking turnover and there is a restricted use of the loading zone or of the parking zone in this case. So this is the presentation. I don't know if maybe you have any question about.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Carlos. We have one question from Yuri, and he's wondering if there's anything like booking of the parking time. So I guess it's you can book how long you want to stay at the parking spot beforehand. I guess that's what Yuri is saying, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, booking is something that in some cities they are looking for, but in the real world, trying to book a parking space on street without a physical thing to avoid that the non-authorized vehicle parked there, it's really difficult. So we haven't really done this type of solution yet. No.
Okay. Thank you very much, Carlos.
Thank you.
If there is no other questions, then I remind you that you can also book one-on-one meetings with Carlos if you're interested in getting to know them a bit further. And if not, well, we will then skip to Antonio. Thank you, Carlos, once again for the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rafael, for
last
the introduction.
presentation of the day, Libelium. So Antonio is an Internet of Things specialist with over 100 publications, international publications and papers. He also has a PhD from the University of Murcia and an MBA from NI Business School. He was the founder and manager of Hopu, a startup that was merged with Libelium in 2022, in which he's now currently the chief scientific officer. Antonio, we know that air quality and noise is a concern for European cities. We know that also in 2020, 96% of Europeans' urban population was exposed to concentrations of fine particulate matter above the World Health Organization guideline levels, for which road transport is the biggest contributor. We also know that long exposure to high levels of noise significantly affect physical and mental health, for which, curiously, road traffic noise is also the most prevalent source. So please, Antonio, share with us how is Libelium working to mitigate these impacts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rafael. My pleasure. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for connecting today. So Libelium, as you probably know, is one company leading in the beginning from 2006, sorry. So we are already 16 years in the market. As mentioned by Rafael, last year we merged effort with Hopu, a startup that was supported by EAT Urban Mobility and that is working in the area of IoT, especially in air quality for smart cities. Today, we are continue working on after these efforts merged in the area of sustainability and smart cities, offering solutions through our IoT platform based on firmware and based on open standard. So we are integrating both all the capacity IoT for sensing and monitoring, but at the same time also with open platform. This is a little bit an overview of our catalog of products, 100% manufactured in Europe, especially focusing manufacturing in Spain, where we are on different sensors related to air quality, parking, water quality, and also we have very different data loggers like Plug and Sense and Libelium One that offer a very versatile opportunity to integrate and to interface with different sensors. So our specialties are quality. So as mentioned by Rafael, we have nearly 9 million people that are exposed to daily particle pollution every year. And this is very important to mention that we are working today over 300 cities worldwide noise solution from Libelium. Some of them directly to us, some of them via our distributors. And in total, we have like 3,500 sensors deployed and over 20,000 of sensors in parking. So our value is that we unit with all the certifications to work in almost in all the globe today. We have different solutions to monitor and to connect via narrowband IoT, LoRaWAN, 4G. We have our own laboratory certified, so also are and calibrated in our laboratory, and we offer all this opportunity to interface also and integrate other environmental data. And as I mentioned, all integrated over open source platform based like Fireware, dashboard, etc. The accuracy, we have certified accuracy with over 90% of precision environmental monitoring. We have also the capacity, as I mentioned, our own laboratory, but also with and this is the kind of capacity that we are offering today in our equipment. Regarding the platform, it's very important to remark that we have different models for CO2 equivalent reduction from planning of mobility. So we are working a lot today in low emission zones project, working also in the urban health awareness, quantifying the city stress, contextual assessment based on, as I mentioned, the Fireware platform. We are working very closely to the UNESCO for the International Coalition for Inclusive and Sustainable Cities. We have implemented some data quality standard like the IEEE 25 plan and the ISO 25, and we are working in order to create all the different platform and solutions. Some of our more referent use case or the mobility action plan like low emission zones, cities like Madrid, Seville, Malaga, and also all the other part regarding origin of pollution like Helsinki, Carreteras, etc. So regarding urban health, also we have this algorithm and this visualization for understanding urban heat islands, pollens, and finally we are monitoring noise and tourism-related impact and also mobility related in cities like Valencia or Barcelona. So that is all. That is my contact detail. To have some meetings. So I just wanted to introduce you today that in Libelium, we are providing both sensors, IoT technology manufactured by ourselves, but also we are also offering open source platform like Fireware, enabling and integrating with any of the smart cities and sustainability project that you have in mind. Thank you, Rafael, for the opportunity to present today.
Thank you very much, Antonio, for your presentation. Super interesting that you're working in this air quality and noise areas.
And just to remind, EIT Mobility is one of the shareholders of Libelium, thanks to the of EIT, you know.
Right? Yeah, we were actually last week. We were at Romania within a conference, and there was one of our regional innovation schemes, and they had your products showcased there. So you're all the way in Romania too.
Very happy about that.
Okay, so just wait for if there's any question, and if there is not any questions, I remind you once again that you can book one-on-one meetings with the solution providers. And if there are no further questions, then I would like to thank Antonio, Pablo, and Carlos for presenting, and also invite everyone here to attend the afternoon session at 1:15 CET, where we will present 3 more mobility solutions and their use case implementations.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and I'll see you in the afternoon session at 1:15. Thank you.